What does the future look like for Ayush? What are you planning on doing with Peak Solar, and what does the general future look like for you?
With Peak Solar, I'm really hoping to learn a lot more about how operations works for companies.
What was that feeling like? Not only the feeling, but the pressures around you from your parents, friends, family about dropping out of university from a popular business school.
I was very lucky where my parents weren't so much get a degree. I don't think they were super against me doing home inspection. I stayed in home inspection school when I did my first TELUS sales job. I don't think anybody's parents would be opposed to them working and doing school, right? The company was hiring for our summer sales program at that time, what I thought was a great income, and it was COVID and nobody could find work. So I just started reaching out to like friends, family, everyone. Hey, I'm working here right now. Do you guys want to come?
Do you think that if you had given attention to TELUS while things were breaking up, and if TELUS was still a big thing today, do you think you would still be there?
If I had the knowledge I had today, TELUS would have been absolutely massive.
All right, welcome back to episode 7 of Vrind Entertainment Podcast. Today we have a very special guest in the house, the owner of Peak Solar. He's climbed his way up the sales ladder and now he's achieving great heights. Please welcome to the podcast, Ayush.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you, Kabir.
Of course.
Yeah, awesome.
How are you feeling, man?
Overall, if I'm being honest, I'm quite nervous. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this.
Yeah.
We've done some public speaking events, but like I was telling you earlier, the biggest thing for me was like, this is going to be somewhere forever. So I want to make sure it's information that counts.
Yeah.
But overall, I'm super excited to get going and see where we can go and explore the conversation about what I've kind of done and how sales has changed my life.
Yeah. I mean, there's a first time for everything. You're already doing so great. And hopefully in the future, we can do many more episodes. But overall, how are you feeling? You know, I know you want to do a podcast with us and we want to do one with you as well. Tell us about yourself. Tell the audience what they don't know. Who are you as a person? What do you do? And what does sales mean to you?
Okay, awesome. Yeah, like basically what sales for me is overall, it's been quite a long journey. There's so many different aspects of sales. I like to consider sales almost like a second language. A lot of people don't know, but we've actually worked together in the industry as well. So where I first started, I was in university, like most people. I was in Simon Fraser in Vancouver. So when I was in school, I really couldn't figure it out. I was a good student all throughout high school, but I think it was just because of just some, how brown parents are. You're studying and so far ahead in high school, so it makes things a lot easier. But when you get to university and you don't have that level of know-how, I couldn't study. I couldn't stay focused. I'm sure I have some level of ADHD. Everyone in sales kind of does. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just couldn't figure it out. So the first year of university went by, and out of probably 5 classes, I think I failed 3.
Well,
not only, I wouldn't say it was a lack of knowledge, but it was just a lack of wanting to do it. And from that point forward, I realized my life probably had to take a different turn. So I dropped out of a pretty popular business school out west, BD School of Business, and ended up going to do a home inspection course.
Yeah.
And then a little bit of time passed doing the home inspection course. And at the same time, I was like, I really don't want to do this at all. And I think a lot of us have that feeling when we're young and confused and not really sure where we want to be in life. We'll go and jump over try different things and try to find a niche that works for us. But sometimes what's great about sales is it lets you find your own market and it lets you find what you like just through knowing a different language. And that's why I found it super important. So what ended up happening is I did a sales job part-time working at a gym at Trevor Linden, Club 16. He was a Vancouver Canucks player, so he has a couple gyms in Vancouver.
Yeah.
I got a sales job there, and then within 6 months, I was doing their sales training across a couple gyms.
Yeah.
The 4 gyms that they had in the area. So through that time, I realized like, wow, this is something I really like. Not only the educational aspect of it, but it's something I understood right away.
Yeah.
And obviously as humans, we like things that come naturally to us.
Of course.
Right. So that's what that was for me. And then COVID hit. So the gyms obviously shut down.
Yeah.
So that job became obsolete. And then I got a call all of a sudden from a recruiter to come try a job at TELUS in 2020. I moved away from home to go and knock doors, which in my opinion is one of the hardest versions of sales, like cold contact.
Definitely.
And that's where we met. But yeah, so I went all the way across the province in Vancouver and ended up working a couple months doing sales in Abbotsford. Moved out there, locked in, figured it out. And from that point forward, I've never looked back. I knew no matter what I'm going to do, it's going to be in the sales industry. But that 3-month process of just kind of going from program to program to program, I switched 3 times. I realized I can't do school. It's not the fact that I couldn't, but maybe I just didn't want to. I wouldn't say I couldn't. And I think a lot of us can resonate with the fact that not doing something you want to do and then pushing through it is really, really tough. It might be already something that's hard, but having to push through it makes it super hard. And finding something you love to do and want to engulf yourself in and do it every single day, it makes things a lot easier. It makes waking up easier, it makes getting to work a lot easier, and it makes working long hours a lot easier. And I think that's why sales really spoke to me from kind of the beginning.
Yeah, that sounds like you went through multiple hurdles to be where you are right now.
Yeah, for sure. Across that time, it was quite a bit.
Yeah. And what was that like? What was that feeling like? Not only the feeling, but the pressures around you from your parents, friends, family about dropping out of university from a popular business school and then going to home inspection, but then finding out that wasn't your path. And then going to sales and then knocking doors. How did that feel like? And what really motivated you during that time?
I was very lucky where my parents weren't so much get a degree, because they were okay with the home inspection switch, because they just, I don't know if, I think most parents are like this, where they just want to make sure you're going to be able to take care of yourself, your future family, and earn a decent living. And that's where I don't think they were super against me doing home inspection. And where I kind of bridged the gap, and I feel like a lot of people fall short, is you cannot always just say, I'm going to go do something all in. I know there's the saying of burn your ships and burn your bridges and you'll be super successful. I stayed in home inspection school when I did my first telesales job. Mm-hmm. So I told them, I'm going to go work. I don't think anybody's parents would be opposed to them working and doing school, right? As where if I said I'm going to drop out of school and go work a sales job, they would have been super opposed to that. But the fact that I was able to kind of just stay my course during school and let sales show them that, hey, this is something that can be a career for me. I found a decent balance as to where when I left school completely, they had the trust in me that, okay, like, I think you can, this seems like a career that you're probably going to do okay in. Yeah. And I had to help them understand that school will always be there for me as a backup. Yes. Even though I've not wasted 2 years, because school is never a waste of time, but I spent 2 years in school. Those 2 years will always be ready for me to come back to and finish the next 2.
Exactly.
Right. So as long as that they understood that and they saw that I wasn't just being immediate or irrational and jumping from one thing to another, I said, no, I'm going to complete my school while I'm working here.
Yes.
And that's what they were okay with. And then once things started going really well, that's when they understood why I took the leap to just, it didn't make sense for me to stay in school at that time.
Yeah. So you were just very adamant that you knew that you were doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. You were confident. You showed your parents you were confident. As a result, they had the trust in you.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And what was that like? So after you got into sales and you realized maybe the home inspection wasn't for you, how did you realize sales was your calling? Were there any moments where you were super discouraged by the progress? Were there any moments where you realized, hey, sales might not be for you? How was that like?
Yeah. So most people, when they get into sales, there is quite a bit of a learning curve.
Yeah.
I think a huge importance to getting into sales is the product you obviously get into. And I was very fortunate to start with a good company and a good product.
Yep.
Alarm systems, TELUS, internet. It's a very reputable brand. So that was the positive part. And then just the door-to-door aspect was a new thing to me. I was very fortunate when I started. It just clicked for me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how else to explain it. It just clicked to me. I went out there the first day, and it's hard to explain the aspect of what things are, but I was a top rep on my first day.
Wow.
And then on my second day, and then I had the best week out of the entire company from the West Coast.
Wow.
All within my first week. So ever since then, it was hard to not look back and say what it was difficult. No, obviously there were struggles throughout the entire process of where I got to today. But in that beginning stages, I just went ahead, never looked back, and put everything I had into it. Obviously, like, the one thing I will always say is hard work beats any type of dedication, knowledge, or anything at all. Hard work is number one. Those people who put in the hours, and that's all I did. When I first got there, I was committed to putting in the hours, and that's what got me my success. There were people that were better salespeople than me. There were people that had studied way more than me. There were people that off the field were doing a lot more. But I said, no, I'm going to get there, and every day from 11 to 9, I'm going to knock.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. Usually when I start a new product, that's what I commit to is, when I'm starting this product, I want to show everyone that I know how to sell it, because changing from industry to industry over the time, people need to believe someone can do it. If you go out there and show people, hey, this is a product I believe in and I want you to sell it, they're not going to do it unless they see someone do it.
Yes.
The proof in the pudding is very important. And that's where, for me, I was always like, when I start something new, I need to put in the hours.
Yeah.
If you don't put in the hours, and it's very easy to lie to yourself, right? Where when you go into something new and you're telling yourself, I am working hard, I am doing something new, it's easy to pat yourself on the back for things that don't really matter. And you have to just remember that there's always people working 10, 15, 20 times harder than you. and you might have an advantage because of your skill, but you have to make sure that you're not lacking. You have to work your 9, 10, 12 hours, whatever you promised yourself, and don't lie to yourself when you get home at the end of the day, because the only person that's going to affect is yourself.
Exactly. No, I remember those days as well. You used to come home after maybe one sale if you were lucky, and then maybe a couple of sales if you were really good. And it's really easy to get discouraged, but also you see the positive effects of it. Coming from in your position where you dropped out and then you tried a couple other things, and coming to the first day of your sales job and you get a couple of sales, and that's a few $1,000s in your pocket. Must have been very rewarding, but obviously it takes another person with a whole different mentality to keep going and keep putting the hours, even if you already had a skill at it, if you're already good at it.
For sure.
And that's something that everyone would respect, right? And how did you go from, just being a sales rep to kind of climbing up the ladder? What was that like for you?
So the company was hiring. I started in May of 2020 with TELUS, and the company was just overall hiring for our summer sales program. At that time, I didn't realize like what I was doing, but I had just made what I thought at that time, what I thought was a great income, and it was COVID and nobody could find work. So I just started reaching out to like friends, family, everyone, my cousins, just that were sitting at home. And I said, hey, I'm working here right now. Do you guys want to come? And then at that time, TELUS didn't have much of a structure. There was no like hiring or management. It was just, they would have a singular hiring manager, and he would hire, and everyone would work within that office. So I would just refer them to the hiring manager, and my friends, family would come in. But then what I noticed is when they were coming in, there was no one really there to train them or do that. So then I just took on that role of teaching them what to do, only for the fact that I was, hey, let's earn money together and go on trips and have a great time. And like we got to work all over Canada before the age of 19. We were 18 years old, traveling across the whole country and working for TELUS, knocking doors, having, like, I remember the first few calls I made, like, hey, there's this crazy job. They pay for your hotel, they pay for your flights, and you make crazy money.
A natural salesman, even at the job.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And like that's all it was to me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to work with my friends, and then before I knew it, like half the office was just my friends. And then one day, someone from the management group came up to me and said, hey, would you look into like kind of growing your own offices and your own teams? And from that kind of spiraled and had me end up opening up Ontario for TELUS. Yeah. And that was a big kind of jump where I was working within offices, and then TELUS is a West Coast based company, and they weren't in Ontario for mobility and internet and security. So in 2021, they decided to make that leap, and I was kind of given the front runner for TELUS to open up Ontario. And that's where the jump actually happened, of where I had my own region and where I was managing multiple offices across the province. And that was huge for me. Otherwise, before that, like again, going back to it, was just, I want to work with my friends and I want to see the people around me make money too, so we can all do things together. That's the whole gist of just starting it with them.
Exactly. And I think, you were one of the front runners when it came to TELUS in Ontario. Yeah. And that's the benefits of, being an early adopter to anything. You were an early adopter to this position in TELUS. And as a result, you got so many opportunities because you were so great at it. Yeah. And that must have felt amazing at the time, right?
It did. And then I remember when you were there, like it was almost all of our just friends and people that we knew. And you saw everyone together earning a good income and being together, and everyone was learning and improving. I can happily say, or at least from what I know, nobody left our program with anything negative.
Of course.
Yeah, I think everyone came into the program, learned skills, earned it at least like a decent income at 20 years old for what if they would have done anything else. They got some sort of an education, they left with some money, and they had a great experience to go back to. And I think it furthered everyone's career. Like I think 30 to 40 people, I wouldn't say it's a good thing, but 40 to 50 people that came to our program came in with the hopes of finishing university and left in other sales jobs now. Of course, you see like a little bit of an effect that we've had on just the network that we have, but everyone's doing different sales jobs, and a lot of them are succeeding in their own sales jobs.
And not even that, I feel like there were a lot of people alongside me that didn't have a chance to go to university or college, and this was their kind of getaway from that, right? Yeah. For me, the main thing that I learned in university was independence. That's the main thing the university taught me. And for those people that didn't learn that, this was a great chance for them. I feel like they learned how to be independent, live on their own, buy their own food, do their own groceries. So if anything, that's the least that they took away from that. I think that's super valuable that you gave them that opportunity. So that's something you should be really proud of.
No, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah. And I forget how big of a thing that was. Like a bunch of 20, 21-year-olds leaving home. Yeah. And we were all over the province, right? So it was a great time.
Exactly. Literally kids just their first time alone, and they learned it really well. as long as they have a mentor to look up to, which they did in most cases, it was
For
good.
sure. Yeah, no, the offices had their own leaders, and within the leadership, there was hopefully like the right pieces and puzzles put in play, and people were putting things together. It was a great time.
Of course. Now let's move on to your solar journey. How did you graduate from TELUS alarm sales to solar?
Yeah, so I think it was super important. Part of the journey was just like realizing how young we were while this was growing so fast. When we started TELUS Ontario, it was just 4 of us. And by 2022, I think August, there was about 120 people just on our TELUS like operation.
Yeah.
So with that going so fast, we didn't put the right systems into place. We didn't put the right metrics into place. We did a lot of things wrong, right? Because obviously first you're 19, 20 years old. So you don't know anything. You don't know any better. And at the same time, you're just like grow. Like people are selling, people are enjoying, but you didn't realize what actual growth is. You just understood like, okay, more sales is better. Ultimately, like we were happy seeing sales go up.
Yeah.
But we weren't building on what businesses should build on, which is operations and systems. Because systems control people to an extent, and the right systems will put people in the right places to succeed. Whereas what we were doing is just teaching what we knew. And because it worked for us, it wasn't being replicated properly. So for example, the training that I gave the first person that ever worked with me is probably different from the training that you got 5 levels down. I'm not saying it was better or worse. It was just different.
Yeah.
And for things to go well, things need to be standardized, and there needs to be systems that keep things in check and people in check. None of that was done right.
Yeah.
Right? So everyone was willy-nilly doing whatever they wanted, trying their best to earn what they wanted. And the money was coming in, so I don't think anybody really complained. But you could see the business from the inside kind of dying and shriveling up. And it got to a point where it just got so big with no systems where I messed up because the relationship was with myself and the vendor. And I didn't do a good job of nurturing that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of let it go. Like at that age when you're earning a good living and you don't realize, like sometimes you feel like it's going to go on forever. That was what I became. I was cocky, and I was just like, I'm making great money. I'm going to do what I want. I don't have to work. So I almost for a whole year, I didn't work on the business. And you kind of just saw it from that moment at the end of like 2023, it just kind of shriveled up and died.
Yeah.
And it's just like a plant, right? If you don't water it, it's going to die.
Exactly.
And that's what kind of happened with TELUS. So the next thing I wanted to do was I took the next year just understanding why did that happen? It was so successful and things were going so well and people were improving and making money. Why did it just die? And that came down to just making sure like systems were in the right place. So then after that, I ended up working for a solar company. And within that solar company, the one thing I did is I sat down before that, actually. Sorry, I got approached by a solar company once TELUS was dying. I went and worked with them again in the sales role. And same thing happened. There was just no belief. Things weren't happening. Systems weren't right. So I took a step back and I went and we worked for another solar company after that one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one where I really took like systems seriously and operations really seriously. And that helped me understand what goes into actually making a real business. Before we were just doing sales, but business is not just sales. It's a good portion of it. There's no business without sales, but there's also no business without operations. And there was a company in between of myself starting my own that I worked with. And there was a lot of negatives about them in terms of just the people they were and the way things operated. But I took the initiative myself to just like learn from A to Z what goes on within a large company. They were a relatively large company. They had 3-4 different arms. They were partnered with Rogers, Shoppers Drug Mart. So there was a lot going on with them, and they had a lot of different angles and things that went into what they did on a long-term basis. So what I was doing is just figuring out what goes on every day. What does operations do? What do the admins do? What does the payroll do? What does the accountant do? And I spent days just asking questions, and everyone was super nice and willing to just share information. So once I was there for a year and you feel like you kind of outgrow a position because of what I was doing at TELUS, I just said, I can't just sell here at this company. That's when I realized like, hey, I've kind of learned everything that I need to, and I understand what systems are. By no means am I a master of it, but I understood what is necessary to get a business to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And as from that point forward, I was like, you know what, I'm going to try this for myself. Like if I want to do this and I want to do sales and I want to do business, I might as well take the risk at 23, not at 35 when I have kids and a family.
Yeah.
So at that point forward, like just May of this summer, I said, you know what, fuck it, we're going to do it. So myself, a couple of friends that we started it with, we just quick and then said, we're just going to make this happen. And that's how it all happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you took a step back from what you learned at TELUS, even though you were succeeding in your head, but obviously things were shriveling up from the back end.
Yeah.
What did you learn from that? Like, obviously you put that into the company that you're now running.
Yeah.
But what was that like? And do you think that if you had given attention to TELUS while things were breaking up, and if TELUS was still a big thing today, do you think you would still be there? Or do you think you would have graduated anyways to solar?
If I had the knowledge I had today, TELUS would have been absolutely massive. I think in Ontario. It still is massive,
Of course.
but it was just not done by me. Where we were the ones who kind of built it up to like the point where it was about to explode.
Yeah.
But we let it go and someone else took over and they did a fantastic job. But I can't look back at it too much because at the same time I was 21 years old.
Yeah.
How much can I blame myself for what happened?
No,
knowing that I was 21 years old when it happened.
Yeah.
So that's the tough part. But overall, like if I knew what I knew today and I could go back, like I'd say there's two big things. One is just always focus on your craft, no matter how good things are. They're never perfect. But yeah, no, there's always someone working harder. And so it's don't let your foot off the pedal. When things are going well, that's like just telling you to just keep pushing harder. And at the same time, like don't get cocky. There's thousands, millions of people that are better than you, doing better than you, more successful and more humble. Like be humble and just focus on your craft and don't let your foot off the pedal when things are going well. Like I think now what I've learned is things need to go well for a period of like 24 to 36 months consistently. Consistency is better than highs and lows. Even though the peaks get higher as the years go on, you don't want peaks and valleys. You just want consistency, because consistency, I feel like, gives you everything else you require from life.
Yeah.
As well as the income and the job earning potential that you want as well, where you can have that balance. Because doing all or nothing is the reason probably why I ended up in that position, because it was 3 years of just only working. And then when I got that taste of freedom, I took it for advantage of it, right? So it was knowing what I know today. If I went back 3 years, I could have done a lot of things differently. And I'm assuming that I would have still been with TELUS. But again, things happen for a reason. We were young and a bunch of kids, for lack of better words. And that's why God sends you lessons in ways like that. And now for this business, I don't think, fingers crossed, that I'll go down that path again if things do go well again.
Yeah. The only reason you would have regret is if you didn't learn from your mistakes, which you did, and you shouldn't have any regrets.
Exactly. I'm saying it now that I did learn.
Yeah.
But the same trials and tribulations are going to come up again, and I have to prove to myself that I'm not going to go down that path again. Right?
Exactly. Keep your foot on the pedal.
Exactly.
We were having a conversation outside about what sales means to you, how everything in life is a sale.
Yeah.
What do you kind of mean by that?
Yeah, when I say everything in life is a sale, I mean more so that you're always selling yourself to someone, in a lack of better words. Especially this journey that I went on, meeting with vendors, meeting with installers, just the different sides of the business. As much as they want you to work with them, because obviously it's a mutually beneficial relationship, you have to give them a reason as to why you demand or command things a certain way. And that to me was like, hey, this is a sale. And then the same way when you're hiring people and your HR, your installers, your electrician, when they have conversations with you, it almost feels the same way. It's like they're selling themselves to you. So when I meant it, like everything in life is a sale, it's almost like you're always having to sell yourself to level up, right? Because unless you own your own business, but even when you do, you're presenting yourself to vendors and partners and different things that you want to do. So in that aspect, you're always just talking about it in a way where you're moving forward with the sale. Like, I'm sure you remember there's like some pillars to sales. One of the things is always move the sale forward. Yeah. And I think it's the same way you always want to move your life forward. And pushing sales through that is just something that elevates you in any which way. Obviously, if you're a doctor, there's not much sales to be made. But anything else, like I said, if you're a lawyer or if you're working in marketing or anything like that, or even applying for jobs, you're selling yourself in an interview. Or when you go and, for example, make a new connection, or when you go on a date, you're almost selling yourself to the other person. Of course, right? So there's just sales in every aspect, and I think sales gives you the confidence to just verbally communicate what you're thinking. More so, like a lot of times people want to say something, they can't express it, and I think sales helps you nullify that. It helps you realize, okay, this is what I want to communicate, and I can express it the way I want to. Because I remember myself, before I ever did a sales job, like I would barely speak in terms of when it comes to just in front of a room giving advice or anything. Even now, I'm like I wouldn't say like I'm in the best position to give advice. I'm more so just talking about my experiences. But it's good to just look back and reflect and see like how sales has affected different parts of my life personally. And it just gave me the confidence to be able to just go and believe in what I'm saying, because it gives you for me, it's something that I'm good at. and I can offer advice for something that I know what I'm talking about. And overall, it's just an aspect I think everyone benefits from. 4, 5, 6 months of just sales position will just really help you elevate in different aspects of your life.
I think it'll transform you as a person totally.
Yeah.
I think the person I was before I started sales and after that TELUS position was totally different. Night and day
Really?
difference. You would probably agree before you started sales and right now.
Yeah.
Totally different person.
Yeah, so that's amazing to hear, and that's like all I've ever hoped for is someone that comes through our program, even if it's 4, 5, 6, 7 months.
Yeah.
That they learn something.
Of course.
Like nobody has anything negative to say that it was a bad experience, I was this, that, or whatever. It's like, hey, I came out a better person and I learned something.
Yeah.
You pay for school, you put a lot of time into school. As a person, most of the time, it's almost the same thing when you go and start your first sales job. You gotta put in the time.
Exactly.
Right.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's amazing to hear about your journey in TELUS and now in Peak Solar. What does the future look like for Ayush? What are you planning on doing with Peak Solar, and what does the general future look like for you?
Yeah, so with Peak Solar, I'm really hoping to learn a lot more about how operations works for companies. Overall, the end goal for me as an individual is to have a graduation kind of sales program where people can come in and graduate as they level up in their careers, because I'm sure, as you remember with TELUS, it was just one product. If you mastered that product, there was nothing else to do. So the goal in the near future is to have different levels of sales within our company. So it's not just solar, but we do like alarms and we do internet, and each one's a graduation to eventually leading to like all platforms, like to high ticket sales.
Mm-hmm.
So the long-term goal, obviously the short term, is to master the solar industry and be a prominent player in Ontario. But right after that, I'd really, really like to make a sales kind of graduation where people can come in and learn from the beginning and have almost an education-based system, but then also level up within the company, and they see the fruits of their labor, and they don't have to leave us when they level up. I think that's a big thing for a lot of people in sales and leadership is you're sad to see people go, but you're also happy for them. But I think, what if you could have a position for them lined up, or as long as they do what they're asked of and they hit their metrics within your brand and your company, that they can keep leveling up. So that's the end goal, is to eventually have some sort of like a growth operating sales, I shouldn't say growth operating, but just a long-term sales thing where people who want to build a career in it have the confidence and trust within myself and our company that will give them the tools and the resources they need, and they don't have to worry about switching jobs 5 or 6 times, because that's one of the biggest worries about sales. You almost switch jobs every 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
What if you had trust in your company, like, hey, no matter what happens, if this product's not working or whatever, they've got 5 or 6 different options for me, and I really want to take control of the operations end, because when you don't do your operations and you just sell, you're at the mercy of someone else.
Of course.
So that's the goal for the next 10 years, is to build out a couple companies to have the operations side and also the sales side just continue transitioning forward.
That sounds amazing. Sounds like you have an amazing plan.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts or messages that you have to the people that are watching?
Just learn from your mistakes, and don't be afraid to try new things. I think that's what's kind of got me as far as it has today. Obviously, it's not anywhere close to where I want to be, but just being able to learn from my mistakes and take everything with a grain of salt and not being upset when things don't go my way. I think that's honestly what's propelled me as a person, just to be happy with where I am today. And don't be afraid to take risks. Take risks, fail, learn, and keep going up and leveling up, and life will be a lot of fun for you. Those failures are almost as good as those successions. So just make sure you keep trying new things and don't let fear stop you.
All right. Thank you so much, Ayush.
Appreciate
you for coming on the podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Of course.